Hello and welcome to Darwin Days. For this program, we get to learn about the amazing Virginia opossum. And my name is Sam and I'll be your host today. Hello to everybody who's joining from Zoom as well as YouTube. And remember to type any questions and comments that you have in chat. We'll be saving the questions for the end of the program, but we'd love to hear from y'all. So please go ahead and type that, any questions or comments you have in the chat. And with this program, it'll be recorded and put up on YouTube at the same link on YouTube after the program. So with that, I am very excited to introduce our speaker for this evening. Our speaker today is Jerry Reynolds, who's the head of outreach at our museum. And thank you so much for speaking with us today, Jerry. I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you so much, Sam, and I'm glad to join you here on Darwin Day to talk about an animal that is one of my favorite animals. And I will start my share screen. And let me know if it first slide's loaded up. Okay, great.
We got it.
All right, well, the amazing Virginia opossum. Hopefully share some information about this amazing animal, and hope you'll learn a few things this evening. The Native Americans actually, of course, knew this animal very well. The Algonquin Indian word for this animal was opossum, spelled this way, which translates to white animal. Of course, we call this animal today the Virginia opossum, Didelphis virginiana. Now, what do you know about the opossum? So I'm going to sort of test you here a little bit. First of all, hopefully you know that the opossum is a mammal, has fur like we. Some people are furrier than others. It's a marsupial. A marsupial is an animal that has a marsupium, which is a pouch. And this is an unusual arrangement in which the newly born young, which are born at a very early age, they're very embryonic, they actually have to travel to get into the pouch to attach to their mother's nipples and begin feeding, and they continue to developing in the pouch. Now, you probably know that kangaroos and koalas are very well-known marsupials from Australia, but the Virginia opossum is also a marsupial. Matter of fact, it is North America's only marsupial. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a few minutes. And it is North Carolina's official state marsupial. Okay, so it's our only marsupial, so there was no competition, but that's okay. It's good to give this animal some extra recognition as our official state marsupial. So I'm okay with that. But beyond that, you may know a little bit more about the Virginia opossum, but not many people really know much about this animal. So hopefully you're going to learn more about the amazing Virginia opossum this evening. Well, first of all, if you look at the ancestral mammal lineage, since we're here at Darwin Day talking about evolution, from the ancestral mammal, there were three major groups of mammals that arose from the original line of mammals. Monotremes, which are a very rare group of egg-laying mammals, such as the duck-billed platypus. Then we have marsupials, which we're going to talk a little bit more about, of which the Virginia opossum is one. And then the placental mammals, of which we are a placental mammal. And in fact, I'm going to go to a different tree. And on this tree, you can see that the Virginia opossum is part of the marsupial branch, which goes all the way down to basically the base of the tree. But then above that, all these other mammals radiated, all these placental mammals, of which there are certainly the majority within the world. Anyway, if you go online, you can see all kinds of different kinds of phylogenetic trees showing this relationship. But the main point is that marsupials were very early on in the beginning of the time of mammals during their evolutionary period. Matter of fact, marsupials actually began, according to the fossil evidence, began in present-day North America. And of course, the continents look different then because they're in different arrangements, but the ancestral home evolutionary home of the marsupials is in present-day North America during the Cretaceous period. Now, I'm going to sort of walk you through a very simplified version of marsupial evolution. Again, North America is the home. 125 million years ago, the first marsupials showed up in the fossil record. And from there, about 66 million years ago, marsupials made their way down into South America. And in South America, they diversified like crazy over the next 2 or 3 million years. Today, there are 120 species of marsupials in South America, so it is still a hot spot. But in the meantime, the marsupials in North America, they disappeared. They did not, I guess, they couldn't compete with the placental mammals, and placental mammals continued to thrive in North America, but the marsupials disappeared in North America fairly early on, actually. Now, from South America, the marsupial lineage moved to Australia by way of Antarctica. Matter of fact, South America, Antarctica, and Australia were actually in close proximity or touching during this time. And Antarctica at the time was actually a temperate rainforest. But anyway, about 55 million years ago, they entered the continent of Australia. And then they really took off in terms of diversifying into species there. And today there are 250 species of marsupials in Australia, and it's sort of considered the really hot spot of marsupials. And a lot of people assume because of that it's the birthplace of marsupials, but it's not. Remember, it's North America where they first emerged. And very recently, and by recently I mean 1 million years ago or less, one marsupial species made its way back to North America from South America, and that's the Virginia opossum. Isn't that amazing? It's sort of a really strange event over 125 million years, that where the marsupials began their whole lineage and they went through this path to go to Australia, and how one went back to, so we at least have one representative marsupial in the marsupial home place. So I think that's sort of a neat story that a lot of people don't know about in terms of marsupial evolution. So hopefully you will remember that. And I hope you think it's as amazing as I do. Now, again, most of our modern day marsupials are from South America and Australia, about 120 species in South America and about 250 species from Australia. And of course, to us, people who have lived most of their life in North America, all these marsupials, look sort of strange to us, except for the opossum, which we've been living with for many years. But it is a wonderful group. But with a total species worldwide of about 350, 370 species of marsupials, diversity is very small compared to the 5,000 plus placental mammals that occur throughout the world. But anyway, a really unique group of animals that, made their unique characteristics continue to work for them in modern day times. Now, the Virginia opossum is pretty widespread in most of North America and in Central America too. It occurs throughout pretty much most of the eastern part of the United States and up into the southern reaches of Canada. The populations that are over here on the West Coast, they were actually introduced by people in the early 1900s, and they have certainly doing well in that environment. And although the opossum is very common, occurs in a wide area of North America, sadly, what most people know about the opossum is that they don't make it across the road very often. I mean, that's sadly, most people only see them dead on the road, and that is unfortunate. And indeed, a lot are killed on the road. I've seen estimates of 4 to 8 million per year die on our roads, and that's probably a conservative estimate. And it's sort of sad that for this animal, that's most of what people remember about them. Now, there may be some debate about Christopher Columbus and whether he was first discovered America, but believe it or not, there's actually no debate that his voyages discovered the opossum. I bet you didn't know that. But the commander of the Nina, Commander Pinzon, I'm not sure if I pronounced his name correctly, he was the commander of one of the smaller boats, and he actually collected a live common opossum, which is very closely related to Virginia opossum, from coastal Brazil. Now, this was a female that had young, and they had never seen a marsupial before. They didn't know what this creature was, and they actually took this creature back to Spain to show it to the ruling monarchy at the time, to show this marvelous creature. And I find his description of this animal interesting. The front of this monster, as he so calls it, the front of this monster resembled a fox, the hinder a monkey, the feet were like a man's, with ears like an owl, which I'm not sure I see that, under whose belly hung a great bag in which it carried the young. So this animal certainly made an impression on Columbus's voyage and the people in Spain when they took the animal there. The animal was dead by the time they got to Spain, but still they were marveled over this, what was remaining of this animal. So I bet you didn't know that Columbus discovered the opossum. Now, Captain John Smith of Jamestown and Pocahontas fame. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put that image up there. Okay. Here's the real John Smith. Captain John Smith, he also found the opossum, and he actually took the Indian name for white animal and sort of translated it to what we use now as opossum. And he was additionally enamored by this strange animal. And his description was that the opossum hath a head like a swine, a tail like a rat, of the bigness of a cat. Under her belly she hath a bag wherein she lodgeth, carrieth, and sucketh her young. So again, the English had never seen a marsupial. So this was an amazing animal to them. They had never seen an animal such as this. Now, I'm sure that on the cutting room floor of Disney Studios, that somewhere there's a cartoon of Pocahontas handing Captain John Smith a cute little opossum that just didn't make it in the movie Pocahontas, but I'm sure it's somewhere there. It should have been anyway. Anyway, moving right along. The amazing, awesome opossum. I hope that you agree that the opossum is an amazing, awesome animal. Wait, I saw that. You rolled your eyes. You did too. You do not think that they're amazing animals. Okay, all right. You haven't convinced you yet. Just stay with me. I want to tell you a few more things about the opossum, and I hope I'll change your mind. We've already established that it's North America's only marsupial, and that was an amazing story of how that happened, right? You got to admit that. Modern day opossums live anywhere from the wilderness to the city. They're very adaptable, so that's pretty amazing of this animal. They eat just about anything. They're omnivores. They eat a variety of plant material, fungi, small animals, dead, live or dead if they find them dead. So they're pretty much omnivores, eating whatever they can. They actually have 50 teeth, the most teeth of any North American land mammal. I think we have, if you're lucky, just have all your teeth, maybe about, 32 teeth, but 50 teeth, really amazing. Now, this is truly amazing. They have the shortest gestation period of any mammal, 12 to 13 days from conception to birth. Think about that. Matter of fact, when the Virginia opossum is born, it is this small. It's about the size of a bumblebee. And at that size, they have to crawl up the mother's belly to get into the pouch and to attach to her nipples. And they actually, when they attach to the nipple, their mouth actually grows around the nipple so that they stay firmly attached for the next couple of months to get their nourishment. And so this is a marsupial strategy of how they raise their young. The young of most marsupials are born at a very young, almost embryonic state, and then they have to get into the pouch to continue their development. So it's sort of an unusual strategy, a little bit different from placenta. Placenta mammals, the young stay in the womb much longer and develop further before they're actually born. But anyway, 12, 13 days gestation, that is amazing. And they grow up fast. They mature in less than a year, which is actually pretty important for the Virginia opossum because they actually have a fairly short lifespan, not because they get run over on the road, but they probably only live about 1 to 3 years naturally. So they got to grow up fast and they got to do their business fast. But they do that. They do produce many young. In North Carolina, most of our opossums produce 2 litters a year and up to 13 in each litter. And the only limitation to that is that the female opossum has 13 nipples in her pouch to feed them. So sometimes they actually give birth to more than 13. And the first 13 that make it into the pouch are the ones who get to hopefully grow up. Anyway, they produce many young. But there's even more opossumness. They are immune to snake venom. And they will eat snakes, including venomous snakes, such as in our area, the copperhead is the most common one that we have here. So if they do attempt to kill and eat a copperhead, if the copperhead bites the opossum, it's not going to hurt it. They are immune to snake venom. They rarely get rabies. Most mammals can get rabies, but the opossum has a lower body temperature than most mammals, so it's extremely rare for them to get rabies. So you don't have to worry about that when you see an opossum in your backyard. They are tick terminators. Research has shown that they can eat up to 5,000 ticks in a single season. So if you don't like ticks, and not many people like ticks because of the diseases that they carry, then you should really love having the opossums as tick terminators in your vicinity. Now they have a prehensile tail. Like some monkeys have a prehensile tail, so they can actually use that tail to hold on to things to help them with climbing. It's like a fifth limb that they can use in addition to the other 4 limbs. So that's pretty amazing. And yeah, if you ever watch an opossum walk, it looks like they're walking on hands. To me, it looks like they're walking on 4 hands. And as a matter of fact, the rear feet have opposable thumbs, just like we have on our hands. So that allows them to hold on to things and to be very good climbers into trees and bushes. And we talked about the pouch in which the young go in while they're growing up. Well, there's a point where they get too big for the pouch. At that point, the young will actually come out, and the mother will carry them on her back for a while longer before they go off on their own. So that's pretty amazing. And well, they play possum. They invented playing possum, as a matter of fact. That's why we say playing possum. And playing possum or playing dead is probably not completely voluntary. It's a reaction when they encounter something of extreme danger or extreme fear. They literally faint and appear to be dead. And the advantage to that probably is that if a predator is attacking them and all of a sudden they appear to be dead because they are scared, then maybe the predator will stop the attack. And it's probably not 100% effective, but it might give the opossum an opportunity to get away from the predator. So I'm sure sometimes they don't, but it probably gives them an opportunity. So we feel that that's why it's an advantage of the opossum to play dead during those circumstances. So I hope that you agree with me that these are really totally cool animals, amazing, awesome animals. So hopefully I've converted some of those eye rollers who I saw earlier. Now, all of this you can read online, you can find in a book. You do remember what a book is, I hope. Anyway, you can find this easily on your own. Well, I'm going to share some things with you you're not going to probably find in a book. And the reason why I know some of these things about opossums that aren't in books is that I live with opossums. They are some of my closest neighbors. This is my neighborhood in Johnson County. There's my house there. And yes, I do have some human neighbors around me, but behind my house, I have what I call possum holes, possum hole 1 and possum hole 2. And these are where possums live. So they are very close to me. This is one of the possum holes. And these possums don't actually dig their own holes. They make use of other places that might provide cover. They climb up into trees and tree hollows, hollow trees, in your house, under your crawl space, wherever they can, they look for shelter. But this possum hole here, you see the opening towards the lower of the picture. This is just where a live tree leaned over during a storm, probably a hurricane, pushed it over, but it didn't fall, caused the root mound to lift up and created a cavity underneath, and then the opossum just took advantage of that. And so here's the possum hole 2, similar circumstance, a leaning tree, a root mound came up and created a cavity that the opossum started using, perhaps some other animals also. Anyway, so this is right behind my house. Matter of fact, possum hole 1 is only 280 feet from my back door. And so that is 280 feet that way because I'm in my house right now broadcasting this. So anyway, they are among my closest neighbors. So I have learned a lot about these opossums. And the way I've learned about these opossums, I never see them. They're nocturnal mostly. They try to hide. But I watch them. I've been watching them for like 2 years now through using trail cameras. So I have these trail cameras aimed at the possum hole, and I have it in video mode so I can see some of their behavior about what the possum does. And I've been doing this for almost 2 years now, and I've seen some pretty neat things and learned a lot about them that you don't always find when you read about them in books. But this is the very first opossum that I started watching. I called Mr. Bighead because he's a male opossum, and males, particularly older ones, and I think this is a pretty old one because he just acts like an old opossum. He has a big head relative to the size of his body. And he spends a lot of time in that hole. You can see he's grooming. I guess he knows there's a camera there now, so he wants to be really in pretty shape for the camera. But they are actually fastidious groomers, and that's why they eat a lot of ticks, because when they're grooming, they're pulling ticks off and they're eating all of them. So that's really, really good for us, not good for the ticks. Now, what surprised me was that, when I first started watching Mr. Bighead, I thought that was going to be it. But I soon learned that I was watching a passel of opossums, Mr. Bighead, and then another male that actually, it took me a while to learn that there were 2 big-headed males in that group. And then I didn't expect to be watching so many opossums, and so I came up with these weird names for them. And you can sex them, and I actually had to come up with a sort of a cheat sheet based on what sex they were, markings on the ears, markings on the base of the tail, whether the tail was straight or crooked. So I had to keep this cheat sheet to help me learn the opossums and identify them when I was watching them in the videos to learn who was there doing what. Now, these opossums are not all in the hole at the same time. As a matter of fact, it's pretty rare that there's more than one opossum in the possum hole, but they all come by and visit. Whether whoever's in there, everybody else comes by and visits this possum hole, almost like a community center. And I actually have an Excel spreadsheet to help me keep up with when and who's doing what. So, and I've been doing this for a couple of years now, and I've got a lot of video. I'm sort of behind in catching up on all of this, but anyway, it's an interesting way to follow the individual opossums. Now here is Big Head 2 and Mama 3. And Big Head 2 is approaching the possum hole. And this is one of the rare times where I've got videos of 2 opossums in the same video. Usually only see one. And so Mama 3 is going to come out of the hole here. And I think this was probably date night in the neighborhood. So they went off and did what opossums do. But anyway, it's actually rare footage that I have of more than one opossum in the same footage. Now, this is a broke tail. The tip of his tail was broken. It actually eventually fell off. And he is showing what male opossums like to do. They like to rub on things. This is a small beech tree right outside the possum hole. And if you look carefully, you might actually see a dark spot on the chest of this male opossum, that actually is a scent gland. And they like to rub their scent on objects. And this is a way of marking this area. Yeah, I'm not sure if he's marking it that this is where I am, or, I'm not sure if it's a strongly territorial thing, but they certainly seem to enjoy doing this because they do it a lot. I have a lot of video of them marking the tree, marking the fern all around that possum hole. And the females, they don't produce a scent, but they do come by this same place at a later time, and they like to do the same thing. This is a female opossum, Mama One, and she's checking out the possum hole, and she's going to come back down. This is just a few hours later, the same evening. She's going to start rubbing on the same beech tree that the male opossum was. And again, I mean, it looks like it's almost like catnip. She really enjoys it, but it may be actually putting the smell of the male opossum on her. And again, I don't really know all of the behavioral biology of why they're doing that and the advantage, but they do it a lot and certainly are marking this at least as a community center, if nothing else. So it's really, really cool behavior to watch them do that. Now, this is a Mama 2. And again, you might notice that she rubs on this Christmas fern that her pouch is a little on the large size. This is taken in April. And you remember I told you that they produce 2 litters a year. I see them in this condition in April, and both Mama 1 and Mama 2 produced young in this year. This was in 2020. And again, you can see how she likes to rub on that. And then as she makes her way to the possum hole itself, look at her belly. She's got to rub a little bit more there, but you'll see she got a scratch too. Maybe trying to get to a tick. But anyway, she's got young in her pouch. Even though you can't see them there, you can see that her pouch is definitely bulging a little bit there. Now look at this. Isn't this amazing? All those leaves stuck to this possum's rear. Well, we're not really stuck to her rear. Remember I told you they have a prehensile tail? Well, they can actually use that tail to carry things. And that's what this opossum is doing. She is carrying leaves into the possum hole. And here's another one. And these were taken at different times. And I've got lots of videos of this happening at different times. And particularly in the fall of the year, they tend to bring a lot of leaves in there. And you may remember that I told you possums are generally nocturnal. Well, they are, and that's true. But they are active sometimes during the day, which I'm glad they were because we got this full color video showing them taking leaves into the hole. I mean, yeah, they don't want to sleep on the dirt. Plus the leaves provide insulation, particularly for the winter, perhaps to keep them warm in the possum hole. So I see a lot of this, and this is Mr. Bighead. So it's not just the females, the males do it too, to bring in leaves to the possum hole there. So anyway, that's a really cool behavior to see them do that. And all of 2020, I never could figure out how did they collect those leaves? Do they rake them with their tail? How do they get the leaves in their tail? Because I never saw that. I had lots of video of them carrying the leaves in, but never saw how they did that until this year. So here it is. Well, actually, it was in December of 2020. This is a female opossum, and watch how she does this. She picks the leaves up with her mouth, transfers them to her front feet, then to the hind feet, then to the tail, sort of like an assembly line there. Really cool to see. And this is the only video I've ever gotten showing how they do this. They gathered the leaves elsewhere and will bring the leaves here. But in this case, she is actually gathering the leaves right here. And it makes sense now, but before I saw this video, I really wasn't quite sure how they did this. So I was really glad to get this video and to share it with you this evening. Whoops, I didn't mean to repeat that. Hang on. All right, look at this. This is in April. This is one of the female opossums, and her pouch was so bulgy that the young were not even staying in it. Now this is in July. So again, they produce 2 litters a year. So both females produce April or early spring litters, and then later summer litters. So again, look at how big that pouch is. She is full of young there. You can even see I'll pause it just right there, you can actually see the opening through the pouch. And of course, it's full of young in there. And so they're very close to getting to be too big for the pouch, at which time they need to probably come out and ride on her back. But anyway, look at that. I mean, that looks uncomfortable. And I just kept this clip on there because they got to eat, to take care of those young. So it's like she ate a little crunchy snack there, was probably a cricket. But look at this. This is what happens when they ride on her back. This is from last year, and I just got a short clip there. And then this year I got this clip here in July of some young hanging out of her pouch, some on her back as she's going back into the hole. And I just love looking at the eyes of little ones, like I gotta hang on. We're going down. I gotta hang on. So anyway, it's so cute to see that. I don't get videos of the young riding on their backs very often, so I had to share both of those with you. And this is a video someone shared with me. This is on a Raleigh Greenway of a female opossum with two really large young opossums riding on her back. So if you're ever lucky to see this, then you really are lucky. And of course, I keep hoping to get this video or similar to this, where a female with a lot of opossums riding on her back, but I haven't gotten that yet. But I've still got my cameras out there, so there's still hope I will get this kind of view at some point. Now, isn't that cute? No matter what you think about opossums, it's hard. You cannot disagree that this is one of the cutest animals you've ever seen. And this is about how big they are when they go off on their own. Matter of fact, a friend of mine, Rick Trone, found this opossum just out by itself, hanging onto some branches. He took the photo of the opossum, but this is about how big they are when they go off on their own. And of course, at this size, there are a lot of predators that would like to get to them, so they got to hide as much as they can. They're really cute, and they got a lot of growing up to do. This is one that I followed that in 2020, that was probably part of the first litter of that the females were producing. So he's pretty cute and pretty little at the size. And based on the ear markings, I was able to follow him for a little while. And this is him in November of 2020. And again, look at how big he is. And again, I told you that they mature within a year or less. And so this guy, is less than a year old, but he's probably getting close to being sexually mature. I'm still watching him, although I need to catch up on my video to see how far he's gotten into 2021. So hopefully I'll be able to watch him for another year or two. Now, did you see that? For those people who are used to seeing how slow opossums move, this was just a short clip I got, and I want to show it to you again. A possum chasing a raccoon. I wish I knew what happened before and what happened after, but that's all I got. So you had to put your own answer to that. But it's just sort of cool to see an opossum running fast, but chasing a raccoon. I don't know what was going on there. So anyway, that is literally the end of my possum tale. So I hope that you'll agree with me that these are amazing, awesome animals. I appreciate you hanging around with us. I know it's 6:30 now. You may be missing your supper, but I appreciate you hanging with us during Darwin Day here to learn more about this amazing animal. I hope that next time you see an opossum on the road, and I know you will, I see them all the time, that you will better appreciate their role in nature and know that there's still plenty of opossums in those woods, and they have an amazing role to play in nature, and they are truly amazing animals. So with that, I'll try to answer any questions that you have. Again, thank you so much for joining us for Darwin Days. And there's still another thing to do this evening, and then live on Saturday, there's a lot of activities and presentations at the museum on Saturday for Darwin Day. So again, thank you so much for hanging in with me and listening to me ramble on about opossums, one of my favorite animals. So I'll see if there are any questions in the chat that I can try to answer
Yeah, it was like, thank you so much for speaking about these wonderful animals. I learned so much, especially about the evolution and how they like traveled all throughout the continents and then traveled back. Back to North
That's a
America.
pretty amazing story for sure.
Yeah, they made a long journey to get here.
Right.
Yeah, we had some wonderful comments in chat. Thank you all so much for sharing all your comments and observations and things. There were a lot of very cute ahs and so precious and things when you were sharing the babies. Sean theorized that in the raccoon being chased by the opossum video, that maybe the raccoon stole the opossum's food.
It could well be, whatever that was. That possum really wanted it.
Yeah,
that's as good of a reason that I could think of.
Yeah. Oh, and we had someone else in chat saying that they've gotten opossums on their trail camera as well. So
that's good. And for those of you who use trail cameras, that's a great way to see what's behind your house or in the woods. And a lot of people just put their trail cameras on photos, and I know that takes up less memory. But I encourage you to use video, because with video, you have a better chance of seeing some behavior that you might not see with just a sequence of photos. So you can help shed some light on the opossums and other animals by observing them through your camera and then sharing some interesting behavior. But yeah, I love hearing that. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. And we did have some questions. Carrie was wondering, as far as the opossums being immune to snake venom, Carrie was wondering, are venomous snakes a big part of their diet? Is their immunity evolved specifically for the purpose of eating snakes, or is it evolved from something else, defense?
For an animal to have whatever the adaptation is or characteristic is, there has to have been some selective pressure for that in the past. So I would say that yes, that venomous snakes were probably an issue for the opossum, and that by developing an immunity, they were able to continue to successfully pass on their genes. So I don't know if there was more venomous snakes at some point in their evolutionary history that created this immune version, but evolutionary scientists would probably have some modeling that they could do. But today, copperheads are very common in those woods, and the opossums are spending a lot of time in those woods. So I think there's a pretty good advantage of them today that the copperhead and the other venomous snakes are not going to kill them, particularly if they're trying to eat. If the opossum is trying to eat the snake, and which they will do so. So yes, I think it's probably has served them well in the past and probably continues to serve them well.
Yeah. And then Carrie was also wondering, for the 2 opossum holes that you have, how many opossums live in each hole? Do you know?
Well, there's only one opossum in a hole at a time. There's maybe just a couple of occasions where, based on what I saw on the trail cameras, that maybe there was one in there and another one went in there, maybe just spent the day in there together or near each other. But for the most part, there's only one opossum in the trail hole at a time. But all of those opossums that I've been following, they do come by and spend sometime in the hole. Now, an individual opossum has more than one place to sleep. They don't have all their linens in one bed, so to speak. So they probably use a single opossum, probably use a multiple of sites to spend the day up in a tree, under a log, in the possum hole. And I don't know where all those are, under somebody's house, under their porch or whatever. But I think they move around a little bit. And at least that's what I observed by watching those 2 possum holes, is that they come by at different times. And even though they may not be staying in those possum holes, within a month, they seem to all come by and at least check it out. And I don't know what's going on with that. They at least come by and, they don't go in, but they come by and they check it out. Then they go on their way. So they haven't revealed those secrets to me yet of what's really going on. So maybe some of the listeners here can perhaps shed some light on that.
They're house hunting. They're stopping by all the little.
Maybe that. That's always looking for a better place.
Yeah. We have a question in chat. They're wondering, do possums hibernate or observe daylight savings time?
They do not hibernate, but they do not like the cold. When Captain John Smith, the real one, not the Disney one, When he found the opossums, that was in the present state of Virginia. That's why we called the opossum Virginia opossum. But the range of the opossum was not much further north than Virginia. And they don't like the cold temperatures. They have expanded their range up into southern Canada because of us, because we have built structures and barns and other places that have enabled them to withstand the winters better than they probably normally could do out on their own in the woods. So they don't hibernate, but they don't like the cold. And the further north they go, the more that's an issue for them. Climate warming is probably going to work in their favor. That will give them possibly more range to move into, but they don't hibernate. They're active during the winter. I see them on my trail cameras active in the winter. They may not be as active. Maybe they spend more time in the hole. I certainly see them taking more leaves into the opossum hole in the fall. I assume getting ready for winter, having a nice big cushion of leaves in there to provide insulation against the cold temperatures. And of course, being underground, like under that root mound, they're pretty well protected in there anyway against freezes in our area. But that's a long answer to that. They do not hibernate.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. And also, just as a side note, that video of the opossum like pushing the leaves down into her tail, that was fabulous to watch. Right. So I'm glad that you caught that behavior on camera.
Me too.
Yeah. I have a like random side question. Why do opossums not have like hair on their tail? Why is their tail kind of bare? Do you know?
Well, I think because the hair would impede them in using their tail as a fifth limb. I mean, again, their tail can be used for climbing, and if it had a lot of hair on it, like a squirrel's tail, that would make it hard to get a really good grip on a branch to go up. So I think it's just because of how useful the tail is. It's not like a rat's tail, or rat's tail doesn't do anything but trail behind the rat. But the opossum tail is actually a fifth limb. Again, as you saw, they pick up leaves. I don't know what else they may pick up with it, but certainly is an aid in climbing. So I think that's the reason why being hairless was an advantage of that tail, because of the way the tail is being used.
All right. Oh, and Carrie made an excellent comment that Mike Cove, our curator of mammals, said something in his talk said something that resonated with Carrie, that the need to collect animals is lessened because of the trail cameras, because we're getting so much useful data just from the cameras, and they're much less invasive than capturing or collecting these animals.
Exactly. I mean, there's no need to collect the opossum. The trail camera documents its presence. And then if you put it on video, you can document some of the behaviors. And the limitation is how many trail cameras you can have out there and how long of a video you have it set up for. But we can learn a lot without actually interfering with the animals. And I love it that the opossums are living behind my house. They're not bothering anybody. All my neighbors know about the opossums, so they're on board with welcoming the opossums to the neighborhood. And they let me know when they go to their bird feeder and feed it their feeder. So anyway, it's very, very non-invasive and very wildlife friendly to observe and document opossums with trail cameras and other animals too.
Yes, which I appreciate as well. And then we had a question just pop up in chat. Do the opossums really hang upside down by their tails like in TV shows and books?
No, they do not. And this opossum here, if you go to my office, this opossum is actually hanging by its tail on my office door. And I started to put them on my ceiling fan there. I said, no, people would get the wrong idea, because they don't do that. They maybe for a short time period as they're climbing, and particularly a young opossum might be able to do that, but they're not going to hang and sleep hanging by their tail. Again, it's a fifth arm. It's an appendage that they use to carry things. And an adult opossum, that would be pretty stressful to try to hang, particularly a big male opossum by his tail for any length of time. So you may, and I've never seen it on a video because I don't have videos up in the trees, but it would be a very short time frame thing that would happen if you ever found one like that. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I would love to hear if anybody has video of one hanging by the tail. I've never seen even a photo of that.
Yeah, I feel like it would be used as something to maybe get from like one branch to another very
Right,
quickly or
exactly,
something.
exactly.
Yeah, not like a not like a hang for a long period. I'm just imagining as me as an adult just hanging by one arm on like the jungle gym. That would not be that would not last very long.
Or thinking of how a monkey might use his tail and swing, swing somewhere. But
exactly.
I don't see the possum doing that. I'll be surprised.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm checking the chat for any more questions in case I missed any, but I think we got most of them. Yeah, there's a lot of comments of I already loved opossums, but now I love them even more. And
I love hearing that. So thank you. Thank you everyone for joining us and indulging me. And I sort of feel like I'm a possum preacher. The opossum is such a underrated animal. A lot of people don't know about it, and it's really a neat part of our wildlife. So, I mean, all wildlife is special, but I always pull for the underdog, and I sort of feel that the opossum is the unrecognized star in our wild animal fauna. So anyway, I'm glad to hear those comments. So.
I definitely agree. Okay, I'm going to share my screen for our last slide here. And again, thank you so much for championing the opossum for tonight, Jerry. And I learned so much, and I hope that everyone else who is turning in also learned so much and enjoyed watching those fabulous videos that you had. We would like to thank the anonymous donor who helped support our Darwin Days programming. And as always, thank you to our members of the museum who support us every day and help make events like Darwin Day happen. We only have one more program for today's virtual Darwin Days, which is our Guess a Sketch. We'll put the link in our chat so that you can hop on over to the Zoom call. That'll be in about 14 minutes at 7 o'clock Eastern time. And though Jerry mentioned that even though that is the last program for our virtual day today, we'll also have programs at the museum on Saturday. So if you want to come over and check out what activities that we have this Saturday, we'll have programs outside then. And finally, the recording of this program will be available on our museum's YouTube at the same link that people who are joining us right now at YouTube are on right now. So if you want to see any of those really awesome videos again, or show your friends and tell them how cool opossums are, then feel free to check out that recording. And thank you all again so much for attending, and we hope you have a great evening. Bye.
Good night, everyone.